Thanks for joining me for this Met Office 10-day trend. Another 10-day trend that kind of splits into two 5-day trends. Certainly the rest of this week, the weather stays fairly mixed. Lots of cloud for the spells of heavy rain, and at times it's going to get quite windy too. Beyond that though, it looks like high pressure will shift in for next week, bringing drier and sunnier weather for most of us as well. Heat lovers though, take note, there is no sign of the hot weather returning at this stage. What's going on? Well, it's low pressure dominating for the rest of this week. The current situation though, notice not a lot of isobars on the charts. The winds have certainly eased since Monday, and with lighter winds close to that low pressure, it means that the downpours we're seeing are quite slow moving. Through Wednesday and Thursday, some places getting a real soaking. Beyond that though, well, we see a shift, but it's still low pressure in control. These lows, though, spiralling in from the Atlantic through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, have more about them. The isobars squeezing together, so it will turn quite windy, and those weather fronts will send bands of rain across the country also. Why the shift? Well, let's look high up in the atmosphere at the jet stream, back to the here and now. The jet is really quite far south, but it's also really quite weak. That changes. The jet stream really gets some welly through Thursday and Friday. Coming out of eastern parts of North America, the jet stream really invigorates, unusually strong for this time of year, and it picks up those lows and sends them spiraling in with their bands of wet and windy weather along with them. Now for some it's going to be a lot wetter than others, and particularly in the west, because that's where our winds are coming from. I want to look now though at the winds lower down in the atmosphere, say around about 1 kilometre to 1.5 kilometres up, and also put on the temperature of the atmosphere as well in the lower layers, because you can see here that the winds at these lower layers are really going to bring in some warm air from the mid part of the Atlantic. It's like a warm conveyor belt, and that warm air blown along by those consistent west or southwesterly winds will bring a lot of moisture from the Atlantic, and that moisture, where it hits the western side of the UK, well, that's going to equate to quite a lot of rainfall, especially over hills. The warm air hits the land, it rises up, and it drops a lot of the rainfall on the hills, as these charts show. These are the two computer projections for the total rainfall during Friday and Saturday. The orange and the reds, that's the heaviest rain. You can see it picking out there, the hills and mountains of Western England and Wales especially, because of that westerly flow, that warm conveyor belt of moist air. Notice also that eastern areas, blues and greens there, not much rain falling in the east, so a bit of an east-west split, but overall the picture for Friday and Saturday and into Sunday as well will be spells of wet and windy weather coming through. Wettest in the west, best chance of some brighter conditions across parts of the east. What about beyond that? Well, the chart for Sunday night, still low pressure nearby, but signs of a change. If we pull out, we can see that high pressure is trying to move in. Now, this high pressure is the Azores high. It's a semi-permanent area of high pressure, and you can see actually near the H, those tiny little dots, they are the islands of the Azores. That's why it's called the Azores high. It's generally around there, and at times, especially this time of year, it will extend up towards the UK, bringing us some drier and brighter weather with lighter winds, and we should see some of that early next week. Notice though on the charts there's still some wet weather across parts of northern Scotland, and if we look at the bigger picture again higher up in the atmosphere, notice the jet stream hasn't gone away, it's still close to the UK, and that adds some uncertainty. That could bring other areas of low pressure nearby early next week. But the main theme for next week is that high pressure will control things, and that's shown by this chart. Again, this is the European model chart, the ECMWF probabilistic pattern for next week, and showing the trends in pressure. We've shown these before in the 10-day trend. Blue means low pressure is more likely to be in control. Pinky red means high pressure is more likely to be in control. And the last two computer model runs showing quite a strong signal that we'll see a switch early next week to higher pressure being nearby. And higher pressure usually means drier, and certainly this time of year sunnier weather as well. So that's what we're expecting, but the position of the high will be crucial. This next chart shows the most likely scenario for that high is a continuation basically of the Azores high extending up. So we're not going to see the high pressure sitting right across the UK and blocking everything, or indeed to the east of the UK, allowing hot air to come up from the continent. Now this one's kind of extending in from the southwest, so it doesn't look like we're going to see crazy temperatures, just a little bit above average, and always with that position of the high areas of low pressure could topple around the top of it, bringing further spells of wet and windy weather to parts of the north. But generally, next week does look sunnier and drier compared to this week. And it's good news if you didn't like it hot a couple of weeks ago, there's no sign of that hot weather returning at this stage. As always, for details day on day, make sure you stay tuned to the very latest from the Met Office. Best way to do that is to follow us on social media. Thanks for watching.